Hey folks, just a quick update about Flynn versus Firetree. We waited 4 years for a trial that was scheduled in November, and it was dismissed. We tried to file a motion to reopen, and the clerks wouldn't sign it. So the fee waivers were denied, as usual. That is a big problem for the court because we qualify. So when people who have a right to access the court due to financial hardship, they should really allow waivers to be processed. So in my hand is the trial management report of Firetree. And what Bob Duff is doing is closing prisons, opening them in residential communities, like on Quintard, where I own a house. It's the second time this has happened to me. And the mortgage checks were cashed and stolen and not credited to our house. So they start a second foreclosure. Now, we lost a house in East Haven because the East Haven Police Department put an informant in Greenwich Global's office in East Haven who had 77 arrests and was accused of attempted murder 3 times. His name is Richard Filippelli. He had testified in State versus Riddle that he was hired by a dirty cop to kill a clean cop named Lamb. He was hired by another dirty cop to kill a clean cop named Dealey. And he was hired by East Haven Police Department Union President to kill me in 2010. So here we go. Are they targeting conservatives? They have a list, that's for damn sure. But I just want to read my trial management report in response to Robinson and Cole. If you look at Robinson and Cole, they're spending all their time fighting me, which is good, because we have to uncover what's going on here. I'd like to read you my response. Okay? Harry Rilling instructed multiple detectives not to investigate 1,239 cash stolen checks of Flynn. Detective Maloney told the FBI and the state police that Flynn was a domestic terrorist as Judge Adams's law firm cashed stolen checks. If you want to research the case, it's FST CV 17501-6928-S. Now, Flynn, myself, received an ultimatum, a threat, and a deadline, or I would be financially ruined. Why? Because I'm a conservative. Flynn gave 28 cashed stolen mortgage checks to detectives, and the mayor told detectives to lie. The mayor of Norwalk has a lot of emails to the detectives, which I have in my possession. It's not good, folks, if you read them. Rilling told detectives to make Flynn, myself, sit in a long line of financial crime victims that would never be assisted. Well, that's occurred, because the first check I gave them was dated August 30th, 2000. That was a $250,000 check, cashed and stolen. Okay? So we're talking about a gigantic check fraud ring that the mayor of Norwalk, newly re-elected, has been allowing lawyers, commissioners of the court, to cash, all working for partner of Kelly Dryan Warren, Judge Adams. So we have a case here of mortgage fraud using the court, okay, as a weapon to take people's houses. Now, we just had Mr. Pritchard just had a $3.5 million home stolen from him, and he had a $200,000 mortgage. He lives in Norwalk. He's on the A-team. And we don't vote row A all the way, folks. We vote the person, not the party, because there's good candidates on both sides. There's also criminals. Let me continue with my letter. Chief Kulhawik, chief of police, was placed on Firetree's board of directors. So this is what Bob Duff is doing. Closing prisons, state and federal, closed the maximum security prison with violent felons, releasing them. The prosecutor's office is nulling the crimes or reducing the charges from murder to manslaughter. Oh, he did 5 years, let him out. You know, you understand. Reducing the charges. I went to the state's attorney's office yesterday. Paul Forensic. I got the runaround. Oh, he's in courtroom A. Oh, he's in courtroom B. Oh, he's not in here. He's in the office. He's back in the office. Oh, you can't speak to him. We told you can't speak to him. Really? I'm talking to him about assaults and bribery, murder. There was a murder case involved. Gave him notes. Talked about Makosi. Makosi's a bad apple. And talked about bribes. Okay? Here's a bribe. Ready? Ed Camacho was Firetree's attorney. Ed Camacho was DNC chair. Ed Camacho lived on Quintard. Camacho put Eloisa Melendez on the Firetree board. Eloisa Melendez is DSCC treasurer, collecting checks from developers during city votes for POCO and other developers. So there's a guy named McClutchy who bribed Melissa during the vote while she's on the Common Council to approve developers' deals that Bob Duff gave $5 million in state money for. That $5 million was spent on the elevators. The elevators were never installed, and I heard the elevators are stored in a warehouse, but no one can confirm that. So, $5 million misappropriated state funds from Bob Duff for the POCO deal is missing. Now, the POCO deal fell apart because one of the partners died and the documents were written poorly, and they screwed Jason to no end, which I hope he prevails. But if he's in the courtroom with Provader, he'll never prevail, because Provader is one of those judges who worked for Malloy, was partners with Larrabee. Larrabee was police chief of Stamford, whom Larrabee put a hit on me using a confidential informant. I have all the records. I have the 911 calls. You can listen to them. It's no joke, folks. If they don't like someone, they will have you snuffed out. So, luckily, we've made it to this point. Now, here we go. Next paragraph. Robinson and Cole, okay, made campaign donations to Senate Majority Leader Duff during the Firetree incident, and Harry Rilling, I might add. Robinson and Cole makes many different Democratic campaign contributions. It's pay for play. Bob Duff was to close state prisons and open private prisons in neighborhoods without permits of any kind. They've testified 12 times that they have no permit of any kind, without notice, and collected bribes. Okay? Bob Duff maintains crime is down, mainly because the criminal court is closed and the prisoners were released. Now, if all the prisoners from the maximum security prison were sent out to other facilities, they went to mental institutions not equipped to handle violent felons. One escaped. I have it. Testimony of a woman who he sexually assaulted and raped. Okay? This guy escaped from a mental facility, went to Stanford to kill the woman he originally raped. The prosecutor nollied the charges, reduced the charges, and made him do some kind of reparation. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm getting her affidavit. It's already done. Okay, so here we go. Communities have been flooded with criminals, and their murder rate is up 30% due to Bob Duff. These bribes have led to murders. Of course, look at the numbers. Firetree operated illegally without zoning approvals due to bribes to Bob Duff and Mayor Harry Rilling. Flynn had 47 million stolen. Yes, Flynn has received 189 threats. That's true. 2 of Flynn's properties were stolen at pennies on the dollar. Informants took over 50 Ave, East Haven, by a murderer with 77 arrests. The informant told Flynn he was sent by police. Flynn was told never to return to East Haven by a killer hired to kill Officer Dealey and Officer Lamb. See State versus Riddle. Filippelli testified he gets paid to hurt people. And there's a connection to a state senator. And he has been released multiple times to work for the Criminal Police Union. So you say to yourself, do you back the police? In Plainfield, Connecticut, I do. But should you back people who release convicted murderers to kill someone else on their list? I have full intention to add a claim against Senator Majority Leader Bob Duff for bribes to release prisoners to Quintard, close prisons, catch and release, to defund, allowing illegals to bring fentanyl to Norwalk, and pay the undocumented criminal trespassers from a Connecticut slush fund. Now, look at the gas tax. That doesn't go towards roads. That goes towards Bob Duff's payments to people. Okay? Here we go. Firetree operated long before the proposed November 1 transfer of assets. They're saying, today being November 20th, that the asset of the building was going to be transferred to Pivot Ministries, but it's been operating since 2019 on Quintard. The cars are all there. We found crack pipes in the street. 2 people OD'd there. What's that? If a person ODs, they obviously broke their probation. They weren't rearrested. There's no news about it. There's a lot of evidence being collected from Firetree. So, here we go. What Bob Duff is doing is a quid pro quo pay-for-play, enriching the senator to place Norwalk victims of repeated violent acts released from closed maximum security prisons to places like Firetree. Let me reiterate, the DNC chair, Ed Camacho, was Firetree's attorney in Albany. Camacho lived on Quintard and brought Firetree to Quintard. They knew about Pivot Ministries. And years ago, it's right in front of the bus stop of the children, by the way. Years ago, a man hung himself at Firetree, and they left the body hanging for 2 days in plain sight in the street. So, when you say, does this affect a community? Yeah. What you haven't learned is the gentleman living next door to Firetree was found murdered in his car. I spoke to him. He said he was a pot dealer. He said that they planted much more serious drugs in his possession when they arrested him for being a dealer. I don't know what the facts are, because obviously Jimmy is not 100%. But what I can tell you is that now that he's passed away, his statements to me are no longer hearsay. So I wonder, Bob Duff, why Jimmy was murdered in his car. And he lives next to Firetree. So don't tell me you're not responsible for some murders, having released every maximum security prisoner in the state. The remaining 55 were transferred. I have an affidavit of a woman threatened by one of the ones that escaped, and that's on you. That's on you. So here we go. Lies to the judge. The judge knows they're lies. The judge dismisses the case when in fact we're waiting for 4 years. What's this post about? It's about the Fourth Amendment. They're taking the First Amendment, your right to speak. They're taking the Second Amendment, taking your legally owned guns away from law-abiding citizens. And what are they doing? They're taking your due process, your right to court. As a pro se litigator, I say I'm a victim of check fraud that Kulhawik is covering up, that the mayor of Norwalk instructed him to cover up. Because I have the emails, folks. There's 900 pages of documents in my possession from Detective Maloney. Unfortunately, Thomas Cummings was the first one to investigate. Child pedophile. Okay? Lowe, Vitarbo, O'Connor. These are all detectives that followed instruction to cover up financial crimes so that Robinson and Cole could bribe Senator Majority Leader Duff. And Harry Rilling's campaign is fully funded, $155,000. And if you look at the Housing Authority, Bob Duff's involved. What does the owner of Cedar Court say? Oh, Arthur Greenblatt is a doozy. He says that he has bought and paid for Connecticut judges and towns. Now, he owns 20,000 HUD apartments in 20 states. And there are bed bug problems in Cedar Court, leading to a woman in a wheelchair needing 2 transfusions. You tell me why. I've read the letters to Bob Duff from handicapped individuals like Bob, like Robert, sending letters to Duff. Hi, we have a bed bug situation. And what is Duff doing? Collecting bribes from Robinson and Cole to keep the machine and the developers happy. So, why wasn't the bribe from McClutchy investigated? To Eloisa Melendez on the Board of Firetree, releasing prisoners, opening prisons in residential communities with no notice, no permits, and nobody knows what those convicts were accused of originally. How many pedophiles live there? Let's ask Thomas Cummings. He was one. Maybe he knows them. I swear, it can't get worse than what it is in Norwalk. It just can't. When the Senate Majority Leader is accepting bribes to open prisons on the QT, it's an extreme example of quid pro quo payments for illegal activity. I found 3 crack pipes personally on that street. 3. I reported it. They didn't create a police report. They didn't test any of the inmates living in Quintard, yet they're dropping in the street overdosing, which violates their probation, and they were never rearrested. Why? Because Bob Duff has made payments to other people, and there is a fraud problem in Norwalk covered up by Chief Kulhawik, and he should go to jail as a kingpin racketeer. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and effort. I hope I survive this, but I question getting 189 death threats. That's probably pushing it. And keep in mind, I was a whistleblower against Bernie Madoff. There is no protection in Connecticut for whistleblowers. Ask the FBI. I went to James Comey's staff. What has happened? What has happened? Oh, extreme things have happened. Now, East Haven was indicted since the incident at Co Avenue. But if people don't wake up and figure out exactly how bad this bribery pay for play of senators is, what can I tell you? How can you possibly vote for Bob Duff? Okay, have a great day. 20 minutes. I really hope you watch